what I'm made of.
Awesome. I genuinely love the way that this game starts off the battle, where you're in the map screen with the option to choose your class, and the music is slowly swelling up in the background, and then it just hits that fever pitch when all the helicopters are flying in, and you just get to dive from the helicopter however you want and find your way down into the battle, and then it slowly fades out, and then the battle really begins. My opinions on Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier, it's actually great. Like, genuinely, no word of a lie. And I was really surprised by this because I've played an absolute ton of mobile battle royales. I've played Fortnite, I've played PUBG, I've played Free Fire, I've played Super Mecha Champions. God, that one was a disappointment. I've played a bunch of them, and all of them were so disappointing for multiple reasons. But Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier has surprised me in how it's so well thought through. It surprised me in how there's just so many ways they play around with the ideas of Final Fantasy. It surprises me in just how well it handles. Like, you can see right here, I'm recording this directly off of my Pixel 4 XL, and I'm using nothing but touch controls. I had to revamp the heads-up display just a little, not the heads-up display, the control scheme just a little bit to make it work a bit better. But after I got it tuned in, after I got all the settings right, it genuinely handles really well. Not as well as a controller or a keyboard and mouse, of course, and this game does have controller support right out of the box. But still, it handles it well enough that I was able to just pick it up and just go. And when you have to spend so long fiddling with the controls and trying to figure out what the right sensitivity is and where all the buttons need to go, and even then having everything feel just that little bit sloppy, this coming out as well as it does is just genuinely really impressive. And it feels great to play as a result. Now, I will also point out that this is being recorded in low graphics, but high frame rate. I can actually run it on high, and it still runs pretty well, but it also tends to crash a bit, which I think is a problem with my phone and Unreal Engine 4, because PUBG New State is also based on Unreal Engine 4, and it was super crashy, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I'm willing to bet it's something wrong with my phone and Unreal Engine and not the game itself. There was also the fact that the night that this game launched, you could not play it. It was so crashy because everybody was trying to play it at once. I managed to get the tutorial done, but then I just had to go to sleep since I'd spent like 2 hours playing it at that point. But I absolutely do not regret waiting for the next day to give it a shot because, as I said, this game is awesome. Like, this is genuinely the best game that I've played in a really long time on my phone. But anyway, let's get to talking about it, because this is Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. It is a battle royale, and it does a fair few things that battle royales do. It does the whole circle slowly closing in. It does the whole guns thing. It does the whole you need to be the last one to survive. But after that, that's almost where the similarities end, because this game has got a lot going for it that really freshens things up. And I honestly don't even know where to start, because it all integrates like so well in just the gameplay loop that it's hard to know where to just like actually pierce this and start talking about it. But I guess I'll go with the guns. You get the pretty basic set of guns. You get sniper rifles, you get submachine guns, you get revolvers, you get automatic pistols. But honestly, they all feel great. They've all got just enough recoil to not be a pain in the ass. The auto aim is generous, but not too over the top. And the actual just shooting with the guns themselves, aiming and firing with them, getting that headshot from a long distance away, coming around the corner and just spraying and praying with a submachine gun and getting that kill. It's all really satisfying. Despite the fact there aren't that many guns and there isn't that massive of a difference between them, it's still satisfying to shoot them. But it's also really satisfying to do melee combat, because there is melee combat in this game. Now, most people who've played battle royales in the past will know for a fact that melee in most battle royales is kind of worthless, and getting a melee kill on someone while they're shooting at you is like a once in a blue moon opportunity. But in this game, every character starts out equipped not only with a set of melee moves, but every one of the 5 character classes actually has their own unique melee string. And depending on the character and what they're good at, it can actually determine how well you use the melee. Like, for example, the warrior class has the best melee capabilities by far. The monk has the ability to get health back if they use the melee. The ninja is the only one that has an AoE melee attack at the end of their melee chain where they throw out their shuriken and it comes back because it can actually do some long-range damage. And the sorcerer and was it called the sorcerer? I've got the game open. Yeah, the sorcerer and the ranger, who are both more focused on materia and guns, respectively. Honestly, their best option is to just run away and attack from long distance because they are just kind of useless in melee combat. It's not like they can't use it in a pinch. Like, you've got an 80 damage in, they're reloading their gun, you're right up in their grill, get the melee attack out, you can probably kill them. But, yeah, they're still not great with melee. But melee is legitimately useful, and it brings an entire dimension to a sort of Battle Royale experience that I haven't seen in another Battle Royale that I've played. And I'm impressed at how well of a job it does. Especially since you need to consider maneuverability, because you have the ability to move pretty quick. You have the ability to jump. You have the ability to dodge roll. And it can be very hard to hit someone while they're doing all of these things. But they even add a really neat little maneuverability idea into it. Parkour, where you can jump and hold the jump button on a wall in order to scale it. And the absolute majority of surfaces in this game can be scaled this way. So you can get on top of silos, on top of buildings. You can jump across buildings with relative ease. And you just have a hell of a lot more maneuverability than you would in a game like this most of the time. So it's entirely easy to jump up onto a building, come over the top, and surprise someone who's waiting on the other side because you saw their footstep marker and they are not paying any attention whatsoever. I'm still trying to pull off, like, jumping onto a wall, running up it, backflipping off, and then meleeing someone who was running straight at me with a shotgun, but I'll get there eventually, don't you worry. And even on top of that, there's vehicles, and they work alright, but you even get chocobos. And there's even full-on chocobo breeding, where you can put 2 chocobos together, get a chocobo egg out of it, and the stats will be like an in-between of the 2 stats, and you can influence it using nuts. And these chocobos even have unique abilities, like I don't have one in this video because I was in the middle of breeding 2 that I had, but the ones that I had the ability to bring me an item when he came along. Very pat-worthy. 10 out of 10, Choj. I don't even know what that means. I was trying to combine Chocobo and Doge. That was probably cringeworthy. Anyway, yeah, Chocobo. You can feed him. You can pet him. You can make him your friend. I really appreciate being able to do that. Even if it is a little bit thin on the ground right now, I hope they add a little bit more to that. But there are definitely unique skills, and breeding them in the right way in order to make the ultimate Chocobo is definitely something that can help you out in the future of the game, but not right now, because as of recording this, it's been like 3 days since the game came out, 3 or 4 days. But anyway, onto the character classes, because there are 5 entirely unique character classes. I did mention how they all had unique melee traits, but they all have unique traits just in general, like, for example, the warrior. He's got the ability to target someone with a melee attack from further away, and he's got a barrier that will protect him from damage. But he's also got a ability which allows him to actively dash towards someone that he's facing, and a skill which starts with recovers HP if you defeat an enemy candidate with a melee attack. You can tell that I'm reading directly from the phone, aren't I? But the thing is, you can actually replace the ability and the skill as well to fiddle around with the way that the class works and make it your own as you level up each individual class outside of the game, because there are 2 different ways to level up. There's inside the game and outside the game. I'll get into inside the game in a moment. But the other classes are as follows. You got the sorcerer, who is really good at handling materia, which is another new thing in this game, which I might as well talk about now. Because the materia are awesome. It doesn't go as far as in Final Fantasy VII, where you can combine two materia together in order to create a secondary effect, but God, I would love to see that. Just have a primary slot and a secondary slot, and the secondary slot changes around what the primary slot does. That would be absolutely fantastic, but they're not doing that in this game, at least not yet. But the neat thing about all of the materia is that they've all got their own unique little thing, and you can carry up to 3 of them at a time, and your MP just slowly regenerates. And they're all useful for some really neat things, whether it be area denial with Thunder, just a standalone sentry turret with Blizzard, having fire to throw a fire projectile through a window and scare the shit out of someone who doesn't realize that you're there, Cure for a mid-fight heal, and there are some really cool ones you can get too. You can get Comet, which is basically like a precision airstrike. And then you can get summons. And it's the coolest damn thing in the world when you can strut up to one of the bosses in this game, drop the bloody Ifrit on him, and have him beat the crap out of it while you stand back with a gun and just constantly fire away and get a ridiculous amount of loot as a result. It's so cool. I wish I could have shown you it in this video, but the likelihood of them showing up, it's like 1 every 5 games. It's pretty low, so when you get the opportunity to go and fight that thing, go fight it. You'll get a neat title off of it. Also, yes, I did just say that there are monsters in this, but we'll get to that in a bit, I promise. Class number 3 out of 5 is the Ninja, who has a double jump, the ability to go invisible, or teleport with a knife if you unlock that, or even reduce the sound of your footsteps. That's not the default one. The default one is if you get hurt, you move faster for a short amount of time. But yeah, it's still pretty neat to have a class that's that maneuverable. You've got the Monk, who is a lot more capable of healing than the rest of his comrades, including the ability to punch people in order to heal himself. That makes him really interesting, because if he gets in close and manages to get a few hits on you, he's suddenly going to have a lot more health than you might have realized. And then you've got the Ranger, who's way better with guns. They get more ammo, they get faster reloads. And they even have the ability to mark people, or even better, and this is how I prefer to use him, reduces the sound of firing his guns. So he just becomes a bit of a just random dude in the night sniping you from really far away, and you can barely hear where he's coming from. He's an absolute nightmare to deal with when he's fully leveled up, because all of the things I just mentioned, the individual traits that they have, the ability that they can throw out, and the extra skill, like for the Ranger was silencing his shots, they actually level up over time. Because in this game, you have a leveling up system in the actual game itself. Everyone starts out at level 1, but if you defeat monsters, defeat players, or just survive for long enough, you'll actually level up. Your max HP will go up, and your abilities will slowly get stronger as well. Which means that everyone starts out on a roughly even footing, but then once you get down to the last few players, everyone's taking massive advantage of everything that they've got. The Ranger is scanning everyone around him to find out where everyone is, and he's got a massive range on it. The Ninja is just hiding, waiting for the opportunity to strike, getting that double jump going to get some extra maneuverability. The Sorcerer has put down his field that gives him extra mana regen, and he's just throwing out spells left and right. The Monk is just going to come in and just beat the crap out of everybody, and then he's going to get absolutely sliced up by the Warrior. It gives the game a lot of variety. It gives every individual character you come across a bit of extra danger, because you don't know if they're a melee character until they try and pull their sword out. And it makes things just that little bit more interesting. And so does leveling up, because leveling up not only gives you more of a health pool to work with, but it'll make all your inherent abilities better. So it gives you a reason to go around and hunt all the monsters that are out there and ready to take a bit of a beating for you. And some of them are tough. Like, you can come across a freaking Tomberry or a Cactuar, and they will absolutely wreck you if you aren't careful. Because, yes, the Cactuar does have the, I can't remember exactly what it's called, it's like the 1,000 Knives, and it will instantly kill you. And the Tomberry does have the attack where he teleports behind you, nothing personal, kid, and brings you back down to 1 health. So unless you've got like 7 potions saved up, you do not want to take him on in a head-to-head fight. He will flatten you. And it keeps things interesting because, of course, there's that extra layer of risk. Are they going to hear me taking out the monsters that I'm going for? Are they going to shoot me from really far away? Are they going to come up on top of me and take me out while I'm trying to take out another monster? Not to mention the boss monster that can drop from time to time. The one that they've got right now is the Scorpion from the beginning of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it's tough. As I said, I had to bring in Ifrit in order to defeat the thing, but I managed to take him out by myself. And even then, just on top of all of this really cool stuff that just coagulates together really well and makes for just a really interesting Battle Royale game where there's a lot different to think about. There's a lot more on the line. They've done a lot of other things in order to keep this interesting. Like, they've got contracts, which is something I haven't seen in many Battle Royales. People spawn all over the place. All of those little yellow squares you saw at the beginning of the video, those are all individual spawn points for like 1/10 of the players, because they all come in all different directions, and the amount that your helicopter can fly can take you across half the map. The only downside to this is that you can't massively hot drop. There isn't going to be a place with like 7 or 8 players in one go. You're more likely to come across 3 or 4 in some of the high loot places like Corneo's Mansion or the Sector 7 Undersea or what have you. But it's still not going to be as hot of a drop as possible, but I really appreciate the freedom. I appreciate the ability to more or less go where you want, and it scatters people out in a really interesting way so that it actually keeps it interesting and makes it so that you always have to be looking over your shoulder because there might be someone with you no matter what. And even then, there's even things like, this game doesn't have bots. Or at least if it does, I can't say I ever really noticed, because like, there's one training match that it puts you in where you're going up against bots. One. And then it puts you out into the main game and there's no more bots. As far as I can tell, everyone you're going to be going up against in this game is a human, and that's fantastic because it keeps things even more interesting. And it's been so long since I've seen a mobile battle royale game willing to take that chance. So yeah, thank God for that. I appreciate how simplified the guns and loot is. There's no body armor that you have to worry about because, of course, when you're leveling up, you're making yourself stronger. So it plays into that as well. Do I make myself stronger, putting myself at risk, or do I stay in the shadows, take the level ups I'm going to get for surviving the circles, and hope for the best? Because if someone gets up to 200 HP, they're just going to be outright stronger than you. And it makes sense in the world of Final Fantasy, so that works great for me. There are so many other things, like chests. The really valuable loot drops aren't random, but there is one little thing that's random, where if you find a vault key and take it to a vault, you can get 5 chests out of it, which basically fully equips you. But that means that you can know where chests are. You can drop in on top of one to try and get that little bit of an advantage. But again, it's not going to be much if you land in a spot, get something, and then someone like a warrior sneaks up on you with melee attacks. So it doesn't matter. It feeds back into itself so well. It's so well done. And even then, there are like crates that drop, but the weapons that are there aren't going to be a massive advantage. You still need to be able to think tactically and strategically and what have you. So that works as well. And even then, there's a couple of like really neat little Easter eggs that they've put in. Like, for example, all of the environments in this game so far are based off the Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? So you can go to places like the Honeybee, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was, you know, the one with the bloody bumblebee dancing. That was ridiculous. You can visit the house with greenery, they call it. It's Aerith's house, we all know that. And you can visit the Sector 7 Undercity, but they have like a bunch of little just placement things that they got going on. Like if you go into 7th Heaven, it's got potions laid out on all of the desks most of the time. If you go into Cloud's apartment, there's always a chest there. Just little things like that. Just little things like that. Even jukeboxes, which let you play some of the music depending on whether or not you've got it unlocked. There's a jukebox in Corneo's bedchambers, which, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy, but those sorts of like neat little touches just make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And it's really well done. Just all of it is so well done, so well thought out. I have had an absolute blast playing this. And you know what the icing on the cake is? The progression system is absolutely fair. It's fairer than Halo Infinite, which I just thought was insane. So The idea is basically you've got daily and weekly challenges that give you stars, and it levels up a season pass, and you can pay for a premium season pass, but you do actually get some decent customizables as you go. But you can also get Shinra tickets that you can use to open up 3 different loot drops, and if you already have one of those loot drops, it'll give you Moogle medals that you can save up to get certain ones that'll show up in the Moogle shop. It's all pretty standard stuff, but it doesn't feel overwhelmingly unfair. Sure, everything costs a fair bit, but what do you expect? Mobile game, battle royale, that's what you expect. But it still doesn't feel like it absolutely chokes you if you want to look anything different from the baseline suit. And I really appreciate it. Especially these days when you have to deal with the fucking, just Halo Infinite being absolutely terrible with the way it handles its progression systems and just stuff along those lines, you know? So, just at the end of the day, I find it really hard to have anything bad to say about the First Soldier. It's just really well done. It plays really smoothly on mobile, although again, I am on a Pixel 4 XL, so my performance just might be a sign of that. It might be a sign of why I find the game so enjoyable to play. I'm not going to say for sure. But the controls do work really well. I like pretty much every way they play around with the idea of Final Fantasy in this game system. I like how materia and melee attacks and character classes and monsters being out on the field and leveling up all play into the cycle, how it all plays into the gameplay loop, and how none of it seems to be just added on for the sake of being added on. It's just really well thought out, and I appreciate everything that it does. And it helps that the progression systems aren't entirely unfair. It even adds a couple of neat little things on top, like if you manage to find a Moogle bell, you can actually go to a secondary shop. They'll let you buy things like stuff to customize, or even like special challenges. Like there's one particular special challenge that's like, you will die after a certain amount of time. Can you win with this on? If you do, you unlock a unique title, just for a neat self-imposed challenge. And yeah, there's nothing locked behind any sort of progression wall. Leveling up all the individual classes to get all of their abilities and customize them the way that you want is great. The progression system is fair enough. I don't hate it. I really don't. I have nothing bad to say. Except it's a little bit crashy on my phone, and we weren't able to play it on launch for a few hours, and that's kind of gotten at a fair amount of bad reviews. Please go back and try it again. The server issues are entirely fixed. And even when I'm playing on, like, Southeast Asia, because that's the only server I've got accessible to me, even at 100 ping, the game feels entirely fair. So, yeah. If you've got a phone that can run this, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's genuinely great. And that surprises me to no end. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.